Hello and welcome to the next episode of our Let's Keep the Conversation Going series. Today, the table is turned and I host and ask co-founder of the Mortgage Industry Mental Health Charter, Jason Berry, why he decided to form the charter and why mental health and well-being is so important to him. We will also look at the progress that MIMHC has made since its inception and chat about what still needs to be done to make a true difference in our mortgage sector. So, hello and welcome. Is this weird for you?
It's weird, but a good kind of weird. I feel nice and relaxed. I'm looking forward to the next 45 minutes or so. So thank you for for asking to do this in the first place. And hopefully I don't disappoint.
You will never disappoint. So like we've known, well, we've spoken, haven't we? We've known each other for a number of years, and I really did think it would be really good to find out why you do what you do and a little bit of the potted history and yeah, and so I've got a set of questions for you, but if we go off topic, I'm more than helpful, more than happy with that as well. So let's start with your career to date, Jason. So you've had a really long career, like myself, in financial services, and you've been a key figure in the mortgage industry for many years. Can you give us an overview of your journey to date, including your key milestones and how it shaped you and your leadership style?
Yeah, sure. And look, I think I was blessed, like many of us, to fall into this sector, Emma. And yeah, I'm incredibly passionate about the sector. I'm passionate about consumers receiving advice, and that's my why really. So having started out as an advisor, where I was okay as an advisor, but I was probably 6 out of 10, 7 out of 10. I used to apologise when I was charging a fee, having done this fantastic research for hours. But when I moved into becoming an account manager, and I was really lucky to join a platform home loans team back in probably the late 90s that was emerging as a lender in non-conforming space. And the people who were driving that business, I look back now, and it was a real privilege to be part of that team. And they gave me some real core disciplines and skills which have equipped me as I continued the journey. And despite what I suppose many people might think, I've probably only had 3 jobs in my
Okay.
life. So I've been an advisor. I've had that time at platform, and when I
Mm,
left that business in 2010, just after all the challenges of the credit crunch, etc., I had a set nearly 8 year stint with fintech insurer and you insure, and then ended up landing at Crystal in 2020. And the key driver for me is the people around me. So I want to like the people I work with. And luckily, as I've touched on, I've been blessed to work with some brilliant people along the way who you try and take the little bits of leadership styles that you like and adapt them into your own style. So
mm.
love this industry, love the sector, and been blessed to work with some brilliant people, thankfully.
So what would you say your leadership style is then? 'Cause you skipped over that bit.
I think I really do love understanding what makes people tick. So I've got a sporting background, and a combination of competitiveness and ensuring that I recognise everybody's different, and there's a very collaborative approach I have. So understanding what makes people tick, trying to strive to make them better, and but what I'd like to think is, even though I've been around for a long time, and there's humility. So I'm not a smart ass who thinks I know everything. And I think, what experience gives us is an ability to spot maybe, the different cycles of the journey we're on, and we can spot maybe you can make decisions based on what you've actually maybe observed and done before, rather than it being some kind of intellect you've got to call upon. So I think I'm, blessed to have that experience, but I think the people around me, I try and understand what is it that makes them tick, ask them good questions, and then hopefully ensure that there's a competitiveness, because life is a bit of a challenge, and we're competing every day of the week whether we like it or not. So that sporting element is has been really important to me as I've led different teams.
Great. And on the subject of mental health, I mean, it's a deeply personal topic for many, but you've always been a strong advocate of it. And I guess what sparked passion and, for supporting mental health, both personally and professionally.
Look, I think everybody, as I've been on I suppose the mimic journey over the last 4 years, and I've had more engagement with people in our industry. And what's clear is everybody's got a backstory, so everybody's got a story to tell, whether it's for them personally or whether it's just loved ones or friends that are around them. And yeah, if I'm honest with you, Emma, when post COVID, when Joe and I really decided to try and make a footprint in the marketplace, I think I felt a little bit of an imposter syndrome to begin with, because although I've had times where I probably drank too much and maybe not represented myself as well as I would have liked, I've never had some of the dark thoughts that many people do have who have operated in our sector and our marketplace. But I've tended to be somebody who, through life in life, people have turned to and shared maybe some of their challenges. And I think I'm a decent listener. And on the back of, I suppose, being a decent listener, I've had a number of people who've turned to me. But my own story probably starts, as long ago as being an 11-year-old, 12-year-old kid, where I was part of a sporting football team that was managed by the biggest paedophile in the UK. So it was a chap who, thankfully no longer with us, good riddance. Um, but this chap was a particularly manipulative guy who I was never directly exposed to, because my father was very, very hands-on in terms of just that I don't know, it was like a sixth sense he had. But when other lads would go and stay at Barry's house, I was never allowed, which I thought was a tragedy at the time. But he just sensed something. And I think that 11 to 16 period where I was encountering that, I saw probably the first signs of bullying, the first signs of manipulation, the first signs of isolation, because there were times, because I wasn't going round to Barry's house, I was left out of the team. And just the manipulation that was felt. But I was so lucky, Emma, to have a father who
Mm.
just sniffed something wasn't quite right, and I was
Yeah.
never directly exposed to what others were around me. And let me tell you, when I talk about people seeing me as a confidant, I've got some stories that just make people's toes curl, because it was, reflect back now, absolutely horrendous. And even
Mm.
now, I've got some pals around me whose parents, they'll go to the grave never knowing what's happened to their sons, because of the guilt that my friends would feel they were putting on their parents by actually sharing their story. But it's just, just tragic. And I think, if you fast forward into the COVID environment that I saw, where that isolation, just that loneliness that was taking place was
Mm.
evident. This sector, as brilliant as it is, it's high or low. It's very, very infrequent that we've got
Yeah.
just a perfect balance. We've got a deal either completing or not completing. We've got a case that's either going to offer or not going to offer. And that emotional roller coaster that we feel, I've been as guilty of as other people, where, as I said, I've drank to excess at various events, and I've let myself down at times. But it doesn't kill you, makes you stronger. And I'm so passionate about the charter, and we've still not got to first base, which I'm sure we'll come to. We've still got so much to achieve.
Yeah, I mean, you've led the creation of the mortgage mortgage industry mental health charter. I have to put my teeth back in sometimes. What was the defining moment for you, that, or realization, that sort of drove you to set up this initiative? What, was it you could see people were crying out for it, or what was it?
I think it was just that period just after COVID, where we'd seen how working from home actually affected our own staff, and it kind of coincided with some leaders in our marketplace had kind of shared some of their own individual stories, but were kind of in isolation themselves. So they were sharing what were courageous stories, actually indicating how unwell they were. And yet, it wasn't as if I was observing others rallying around to say, actually, we got issues too. So I think extending the support beyond the crystal environment into that wider marketplace. I just knew it was required. I think we've lagged behind other sectors, other industries for years, and
Yeah.
I think then observing and seeing some brave people actually step forward and indicate their vulnerabilities. I didn't want them to be on their own. I wanted them to know that let me tell you that everybody's got their own challenges and everybody needs to understand coping mechanisms, and we need to encourage conversation.
Yeah, no, I mean it's amazing really of your awareness to, to recognize that and to, well, more importantly, do something about it really. And I guess a question. So you talked about, observations of people around you. What unique mental health challenges have you observed in our industry? And I guess how do you think they differ to those in other sectors? Do you think there is a difference?
I think our sector is unique, and I think along with maybe the legal profession and the medical profession, I think financial services is a similar kind of level, unfortunately, with an unwanted statistic in terms of suicide. So
Mm.
you look at the stresses and strains within the legal profession and the medical profession, and we're right up there when it comes to, unfortunately, people taking their own lives. Um, and look, on the back of on the back of that, we touched on the emotional roller coaster and just that journey we actually go on. It's a brilliant sector, but it's also an incredibly challenging sector for whether it's working long hours or whether it's not getting enough sleep. And it's a profession which is up there when it comes to the risk of burnout.
Mm.
So look, I think on the back of that, we're still in an awareness phase, and if I'm honest with you, with what we're doing with Mimic. So actually turning around and delivering propositional support where we're serving the sector with real
Yeah.
meaningful activities and activities that do make a difference. I still think we're probably 12 months away from, because the focus this year is still very much around how can we've got a brilliant cross section of signatories which truly represent our marketplace. So mainstream lenders, specialist lenders, mortgage clubs, mortgage networks, individual brokers, big firms of brokers. We've got a brilliant cross section, but the
Mm.
reality is we've got 182 signatories. And although that gives us an audience of over 20,000 individuals, if we want to get messages out there, we've still only got maybe 85, 90 brokers or broker firms. So I still think we're failing. So I still think our message to get more people signed up so we can actually really start making a difference is still a long way away from where it needs to be. But the momentum and the goodwill and the support I'm getting from people like yourself and other leaders within the marketplace who just recognise that encouraging conversation is a good thing. It's not a sign of weakness. I can't really ask for much more other than let's get more people signed up.
Okay, and because we've spoken before, I think on the podcast that I did, that leaders play a vital role in creating support environments, and I guess what do you believe are the key traits that leaders must demonstrate to foster the mental well-being in their teams?
I think it's a brilliant question, this, because it's look, role models are important, whichever sector and whichever industry people operate in, and I think we have some brilliant role models who've been fantastically successful in their professional and work life, and yet they've demonstrated that they've been successful, despite having maybe mental health challenges rather than because of mental health challenges. So I think the more role models, the more people that actually stand up and put their hand up to actually indicate that they've had the challenges and share the challenges in conversations like this. I think the better the marketplace can actually be. And I'm excited about where things can develop because of just how honest people have been. You mentioned yourself and the conversation that you and I had, and there's a real honesty and an integrity to the conversations that we've had with with people. And I think look, mental health isn't a cop out. It's a genuine issue for for people. And I think the taboo that that was once there, Emma, I think we're doing a decent job actually breaking down some of those taboos. But I think it needs managers, supervisors, leaders who are sympathetic, empathetic, but also just demonstrate the right kind of behaviours themselves. And um, as again, showing vulnerability, whether you're, whatever your ethnicity, whatever your gender, it's a sign of strength. Right? It's not a sign of weakness, but it's taken a long time to get to where we've got to, I suppose.
Yeah, no, I think there's a lot of truth in that, and I see it all of the time. So I think, we've talked about leaders, but companies that want to support mental health but struggle to know where to start, I guess. What are some of the practical, affordable steps that the organizations can make can take to make a real difference?
Yeah, and look, I think taking that first step is usually the hardest, right? And if you're a business owner running a brokerage, it's possible you don't know where to actually start. And so I just think again, one of the straightforward things that I want the website to deliver to the marketplace. One is to make sure that we can very objectively signpost people who are struggling to experts, because the one thing we're not experts in mental health, but we know people who are. So making sure that we've got a very, very simple signposting process to experts is important. And then the point that's kind of linked to what your question is there, we've then got to just make sure reference material, assets, and just materials that can be lifted and dropped. And it might just be something as simple as a one-to-one document. We both know how important it is, whatever the business side, to have one-to-ones with your staff, and just pivoting or having a framework of questions that get under the skin and maybe get below some of the superficial layers are really important. And I know, some of the one-to-one documents we've got, how you feeling on a scale of 1 to 10 is a very, very different question to how you're feeling. But again, I just think there are some really excellent resources that people can just lift and drop into their environment. But the crucial thing is that becoming a signatory is a pledge that you've got mental health and well-being on your radar. It's totally free, and it does provide the access to the materials, and it provides an insight to areas of the website that will just be really will just be really, really useful. But it's crucial that we provide that reference material.
Yeah, fab. And that question that you've just referenced, the how are you feeling on a scale of 1 to 10, I use that all the time. First
Brilliant.
of all, I say, how are you? And then they go, yeah, yeah, cool. How are you feeling on a scale of 1 to 10? And a lot of the times it's a very different answer. So it's really, really sort of poignant, that question. So thank you for that for me.
I think we spoke, didn't
Um,
we, when we were chatting together? I think we spoke about the different masks that
yeah.
people wear, and there is a front, and there's a yeah, I'm feeling fine, I'm great, everything's okay. But
Mm,
I know one of your brilliant strengths is you can smell something. You can, if it's fishy, if something's not quite right, because you care about the people.
yeah.
And if you genuinely care, it's easy to spot when something is not quite right. So whether they're just looking a bit dishevelled, whether they're not looking as fresh as they normally do, or they just don't seem to have as much energy. If you genuinely care about your people, it isn't difficult to spot and identify. Is that what you find?
Oh, for sure. Everyone can have a bad day, can't they? And, you put it down as one off. But if you start seeing a sort of a pattern of behavior, and you're observant, and like you say, your people, and your friends, your family, and all of that. It doesn't take you long to pick up the telltale signs. And the difficulty, I guess, is that you can only push somebody so far. You have to wait until they're ready. So it's just, how are you on a scale of 1 to 10? Anything I can do here if I want to talk? Do you know what I mean? So it's so important to be so observant, and yeah, some people that comes naturally to, others you have to work at it. But if they know what to work at, which is what you help them do, it becomes easier. So yeah, it's brilliant.
You're right about again, not pushing people, and these people will volunteer. So if it's if it's in the right space, it's the right environment, and the tone's been set, then they'll volunteer where they're at. And again, I think there's a line to be drawn in terms of look, and this is maybe what the most skilled leaders and managers can actually do, because they won't be overly intrusive. If people want to volunteer that
Yeah,
that's something that right, it'll come out, and when they're good and ready. So it's just about that listening is almost as important as the talking, isn't it? And I think that was something we picked up when we
yeah.
we chatted together, and just being an active listener, and just
Mm,
letting a dump of
mm.
information and land. Sometimes that's as that's all that's good enough. Just being there to
Yeah,
take that brain dump.
yeah, and it's following through as well, I think, because when our podcast went out, I was quite taken aback actually about the amount of people that got in touch to say, I'm struggling. And so you make a commitment to these people to just check in every once in a while. Nothing onerous, but how you doing? How did such and such go? And so, it's been really, really good to be able to give a little bit back as well, and know that, it really does make a difference to people. So yeah, I mean, I think it's, amazing what you do.
And just sorry, I know you're itching to ask the next question, but I just think the experience and competency that you and I have after all these years of experience, it's look, it's not an obligation to give back to the sector, but I just think is that knowledge and experience we've got, there is so much that can be offered to actually help and really help shape what this next generation can actually deliver into our sector, because the sector is a brilliant sector to operate in no matter what gets thrown at us. The resilience that advisors show time after time is incredible. And just when you think there can't be another curveball like COVID, and there's Ukraine, and just whatever's thrown at us, the advisors demonstrate that resilience is brilliant. So I think, as much as we talk about the dark subject matter of mental health, we should never be surprised how brilliantly the sector responds to challenge, which is ace. And if all we can do is spread some positivity, not unnecessary propaganda, but positivity, just based on that learnings and what we've been through, got to be a good thing, right?
It's about, being vulnerable and admitting, where your challenges have been, I guess, and you know, we haven't got all the answers, but at least you can help people try and get there, I guess, is the great thing that I think this does for people. So I suppose touching on the charter so far and since the launch, what successes or milestones are you most proud of, and where do you see the opportunities for growth? You touched on some of the growth areas earlier, but I guess I'm interested in the journey so far.
I love the annual survey. The fact that we'll be doing our fifth annual survey this March April gives us a real opportunity now to temperature check and benchmark the
Yeah.
progress we're making or not making. So that first year was particularly difficult, because we didn't really know what we were comparing ourselves against.
Mm.
Whereas now, coming into this, the result for the fifth year, I'm dead excited about what it will show us. And look, some of the dials don't move, Emma. So look, I know when we assess the results, I know that if anything, we're going to see brokers working longer hours and having less
Mm.
sleep. So they'll just be
Yeah.
trends that are just always evident. But I think what we are starting to see is we're seeing more engagement from companies actually embracing the charter, and having frameworks in place to actually support. So I'm particularly chuffed with the survey, and I'm also just delighted with just the goodwill that that I see on a day-to-day basis. So look, there won't be a day or week go by without somebody indicating, referencing to me the charter. There'll be something they've seen, something that has actually caught their eye and just caused them to think a little bit differently. And yeah, I'm really chuffed with the just coping mechanisms that we've been able to share. And we've covered, in conversations like this, and we've covered everything from ADHD to menopause and all kinds of different subject matters that affect mental health. And yeah, I just think, proud of the survey, proud of the activities, although I'd still like us to be serving the needs of the sector in a far more comprehensive way. I think that can come as we move forward. But I think the activities that we're still doing and the fundraising that we're still doing is we'll continue. Yeah, we'll continue this year, and I'm sure we can talk about a few of the activities we've got lined up in a moment. But I'm just really chuffed. Conversation is more prevalent. The taboo is less, and we've got a temperature check which we can a KPI each year. I hate the thought of benchmarking and KPI, but it does, it gives us an opportunity to say and mark the homework really, which is great.
Well, you've got to see where you've come from and where you're going to in anything that you do, don't you? So what ultimately is the vision for Mimic over, I guess, the next 5 years, and what role can everybody play, in that within the industry?
Look, I know and I can see that within the signatories, we've got some brilliant mainstream lenders, specialist lenders, building society challenger banks who've got some very established mental health and wellbeing frameworks, which is ace. I think as we move forward, there are ways that best practices because there's no commercial sensitivity. I think there's best practices that can be shared amongst those groups, which is great. And I think we've also got, as I've touched on, this underbelly of advisor and advisor firms of all shapes and sizes, where we can just keep having conversation and talking about how we evolve and just improve the frameworks and structures within those businesses. But ultimately, I want Mimic to be the go-to, so the site. I want it to be the go-to place for anybody who's looking for reference materials, coping mechanisms, just advice and understanding. I want it to be the go-to place without a doubt. And look, I think it's not an unrealistic expectation, right? And it might make people fall off a chair, but 100% of the firms operating in our sector should be able to at least signpost and provide a guide to where their staff need to go, can go in the event of them struggling. 100%. Um, you know, mental health is every bit as important as physical health. So if you look at the Health and Safety at Work Act, um, it's not visible, but it's every bit as important, and it's not acceptable for firms not to be able to guide and signpost their staff to expertise. So 100% of the firms should be providing some kind of steer. And I think the latest statistic is from respondents last year it was 52%. So we've got a long way to go to get that
Yeah.
to 100%. But I just want the charter to be the go-to source for any kind of support, any kind of requirement that individuals or companies may have. And as I've said to you, I think we're 12 months away from really being able to deliver a consistent flow of meaningful information or activities that can serve the sector. And again, I think before it won't be us deciding what that looks like. Before we move into this propositional stage, we'll canvass the signatory audience, we'll canvass those that operate in our sector and find out what they need, and then we'll just implement it. It's as simple as that. But I still think 4 bases to go. And we've 4 bases to cover, and we're not even at first base yet. So there's no congratulations or pats on the back, even though, look, I'm humbled by some of the comments we actually get. But I just think we've
Mm.
got a long way to go. But I'm blessed to have some brilliant people supporting this, in the best possible way. And I've got no doubt the proposition we deliver in 3 years or 5 years' time, Emma, is going to be so much stronger than what we're delivering now. I've got no doubt, and anybody listening should rest assured that'll be the case. I promise.
So how do people get involved? What can they do to support then? You know, where do they come to? What sort of things do you need?
I think so. The first step is obviously, anybody who's listening who's not a signatory, then I'd urge you to just go to the Mimic website, so www.mimhc.co.uk, and become a signatory. It's a pledge to have mental health and well-being on the radar. Although there's 6 core principles that we ask firms to try and adapt and adopt. There's no huge accountability. What we're delivering there is a footprint and principles that is an ambition for people to actually embrace. As it stands, becoming a signatory is just a place to have mental health and wellbeing on your radar. It's totally free. So the first stage is become a signatory. Once you've become a signatory, then I just urge you to just look out for the activities that we run through the year. There's 3 main ones that will always be part of the annual calendar. Mental Health Week, we run this year from May the 11th to May the 18th. We're going to make sure that we're encouraging people to walk and talk. So just like last year where we covered 145 miles, and this year we'll be doing a walk which takes us from Birmingham in Digbeth all the way to Land Bay offices actually in Victoria in London. But unlike last year, Emma, where I nearly killed a few people off because we were on the side of dual carriageways, this year it's a very pedestrian and very picturesque walk that we'll take along the Grand Union Canal. So it's the entire length and breadth of the Grand Union Canal. So that during Mental Health Week. We have World Suicide Day in September because, look, 25 to, 16 to 24-year-olds and 25 to 39-year-olds for females, and it's still the biggest killer. And so, ensuring that we recognise the importance of conversation, the importance of not bottling things up is massive. So we'll make sure that we've got something activities in and around World Suicide Day, and then World Mental Health Day. We were Well, we are going to hold a charity ball. So we're going to have our first inaugural charity event, and somewhat uniquely, it's going to be alcohol free. So we've got a real canvas. The first 15 businesses that step forward to take a table. I just canvassed some opinion from them just before we decided to go alcohol free, and it was universal. And everybody thought it was a great idea, a little bit different, but it's a great idea. And again, look, I can't underplay and understate the impact that alcohol has had when I've at my lowest points. So I think it is an unwanted and can be a stimulant to cause that anxiety and depression. And I think just having a night where we can still celebrate, the great and good can be there. We can still have some brilliant fun, but it be alcohol free. I think would be a real unique kind of event. So I'm looking forward to doing that. So there's other activities which I'd urge people to just keep an eye out on the calendar. We've got a netball event that Georgina Smith, who works at Buckinghamshire, is organising the week before World Mental Health Week. So we've got lots of stuff as we go through the year. I just encourage people, keep your eye on the calendar and be as participative as you choose.
Brilliant. I mean, if somebody can't get involved in all of that, then it's a sorry old tale. But, you know, let's not stop here, right? It's an ongoing journey, mental health. We need to keep the conversation going, and not just, during events like this, but also in our daily interactions as we've discussed. So just with that in mind, what message would you like to leave the audience with today?
I think really straightforward. Be brave, be courageous, and it's okay not to be okay. So sharing vulnerabilities and sharing how you feel, so people around you can understand that. And I just usually encourage. And if you've got an employer who's being unsympathetic, then find another employer. find someone where the values, the morals, and the way they run the business, align with your own personal standards and aims. I know that might seem a little bit bold, but we both know there's some brilliant people working in this sector. The sector needs talent. It needs people who are the best versions of themselves. So sometimes, that presenteeism is more important than absenteeism. So just people being the best versions of themselves is really important. So don't bottle things up, have conversation. And if you've got an unsympathetic and an environment that you just don't enjoy, then be brave. And there's a world of opportunities out there.
Fab. And look, I just wanted to say thank you for all that you do. It's brilliant. Really respect you for what you do, and yeah, I'll continue to support as long as I can. And thank you for giving me the opportunity today to find a bit more about it.
Thanks, Emma, and I appreciate the support you're providing as well. So I never take it for granted. So I'm really, really grateful. Thanks for turning the table. So hopefully, I feel it's flowed nicely. Hopefully, you've
Yeah.
enjoyed it. But I really appreciate you taking the time to do this today.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you.